Some people think Christmas decorating is all about the tree. I love the tree, but in this video, I will be showing you several Christmas touches I have grown to love so much through the years that I would probably be happy without a Christmas tree. My first go-to is, of course, garlands, which I showed in a previous video, including this little one in the kitchen with cookie cutters on it. But in this video, I will be sharing several types of small touches, Christmas touches, that are simple, quick, budget-friendly, and take up very little space, which is an important consideration in my small home. Now, I love to dress up everything I can think of for Christmas, like several items found here in the kitchen. I always keep an ivy topiary in my kitchen window, and I keep the Mackenzie Child's frog on the pot, and always do something seasonal. My topiaries got red spider last year, so they are not very full. My son's holly bush is covered with berries this year, and that seemed like the perfect addition. I even found several that curve perfectly along the topiary frame. In years past, I have hung a single special ornament on my topiaries, put fairy lights on them or tied on a ribbon. It's like decorating a tree, but way easier. I have placed 2 brass deer here and reserve the right to change my mind. They are designed to hold candles, but I don't particularly like them with candles. Maybe I just haven't found the right candle, but I'll keep working on it. I also love a beautiful bowl of fruit, or 2. It's beautiful this time of year to ring the fruit with shiny green magnolia leaves. I always keep a small piece of faux ivy with the fruit and maybe a sprig of rosemary. I also like a Granny Smith apple for contrast. And cooking. I have given my cookie jars more prominent locations in this season since my grandchildren will be expecting every one I own to be filled with their favorite treats. Another favorite of mine is decorating my candlestick holders. I might start by selecting a candle holder and maybe change the candle. Then I choose a ribbon and add greenery. On this candle, I have pine, yew, Irish ivy, and holly. This ribbon is tied around the candle with a classic bow that holds everything together. Now, this little candle stand looks festive without changing what's on it. Well, it's so small it really can't hold much. And now I have a small corner of the room with a lovely, unobtrusive touch of Christmas. Something I often add, but not this year, is baby's breath. It looks like snow, but simply using a variety of candle holders, either tall or short, casual or fancy, a candle in your color of choice, a ribbon to coordinate with your look, and greenery of all types, including fresh or faux, can give my rooms a little suggestion of Christmas everywhere I look. I'm going to show you 2 more candle holders I've decorated with different feels. What's needed to do one of these couldn't be any simpler. I have chosen some pine, and mine actually has a split in it, which is going to be kind of nice, and a couple of pieces of yew that were just cut off when I trimmed the bush. And this is an old bow with 5 relatively small loops and a longer tail and a shorter tail. I'm not sure what I did with it that I needed such long wires, but I'm probably going to trim that up a little bit. Super easy to do. And there's my brass candlestick. I thought this would be pretty with the brass. So my bigger piece on the bigger side, my smaller piece on the smaller side. I'm going to take one twist here before I put it on the candle. Really not necessary, but it'll make it a little bit easier to hold on to. Yeah, do a little fluffing on the bow. I retied that bow so it has a little bit of a wrinkle in it, and I can cut it off if I need to. And the wire is way long, so I'm going to cut it not completely back. I've got things that were not intended to be wire cutters. Yeah. Oh, he came out. Oh, we'll shove him back in. And take my wire, and I'm just bending him back so that he's not going to poke anybody. And there it is. I can decorate one, or I can decorate several of them. I can use all the same bows. I can change the candle out, put it a different color. I think that tail's a little long. I'm going to trim that up. Okay, I think that looks a little less sloppy with a shorter tail on it. There it is on my messy table. In the living room, you might have noticed in a previous video a crystal candle holder with 2 types of ribbon and faux greenery. The white and green ribbon I made last year and just held it together with a piece of wire and put it in a box when I was finished. But this year I added gold ribbon to coordinate with my sparkly theme in this room. Here on the back side, you can see how easy it is just to slip this on the candle holder. The greenery on this one is faux since I made it early, and I have a thing about not burning my house down. This arrangement is much more formal than the other 2 candles. This is such a versatile thing to do. Imagine using a hand-thrown candle holder and a burlap ribbon with foraged weeds and greenery for a totally casual look. It can suit absolutely any decor style. Foraging is one of the most fun parts of Christmas, I think. And you can see what I have foraged. I get things from my own yard. I get things from my son's yards. These holly berries came from my son's yard. Anything I find on the ground, the yards of friends. This is some type of a pine. And just ask your friends and you might be real surprised. These actually came from the neighbor of a friend. If a plant is growing onto someone else's property, the owner of the property that's being infringed upon has a right to cut the plants. So the neighbor says, go ahead, cut. That's fine. So these came from the neighbors of a friend. This is a type of holly. I think it's called like an Irish holly or something. But it has these interesting little seed heads. I think in some regions, like in England, sometimes the seed heads can be like a dark purpley kind of a color, but I never see them except like this. You've seen how I use the forage materials to decorate candle holders and even using the holly in the ivy topiary, but that's just the beginning. A small, fresh arrangement in a chipped mug sits on a shelf in my bedroom, adding Christmas without taking up space or tempting Kitty Kirby to make trouble. Well, the truth is, I tend to be the one who knocks things off these high shelves, so I always use items that are either indestructible or already damaged. Now, if I'm feeling more grand, I will make an arrangement for the dining table. My mother always did this, including reusing a piece of floral foam. It's called Oasis, and she would save it whenever she received something from a florist. And mine already has a spot in the center that perfectly holds this candle. If I use the existing holes from the plants from the previous year, the foam will last longer. Now, my understanding is the foam isn't good for the planet, so I use it until it totally falls to pieces. I've added pine cones and some small faux fruit. Another thing that's fun to do is to add some greenery above a picture. And this obviously is magnolia and some pine cones and some ribbon. And that fills that kind of a big open space above the peach picture. And in the powder room, my powder room is, well, I'd say twice the size of the restroom on an airplane, but that still doesn't make it very big. So I certainly don't have room for even anything on the countertop in here. My countertop is just next to nothing. So above the mirror, this happens to be some faux greenery with some faux berries, but that's been up for a while, so I want it to dry out. And little fingertip towels that are really old, a good 40 years old, I suppose, but in red and green with a little plaid. I think I got that in early marriage on a clearance rack after Christmas. And my little bathroom looks festive and not cluttered. Now, back to my foraged materials. I have a wreath on the front door and 2 vertical swags on the porch. I will be including my brief but unprofessional demonstration. It will not hurt my feelings if you prefer to watch professionals do this. I do too. Just know, if I can do it, so can you. The vertical swags are just wired together using the larger magnolia branches as the base. I need to add some fairy lights so they'll show up at night. Under the trees in these urns, I've placed some little bundles of greenery to fill in the empty spaces. I really do need to replant these trees. They're getting holes in the sides. They've really outgrown the pots. But using that foraged greenery makes this an inexpensive, quick, and compostable decoration at the end of the season. All I need to do is remove any wires. When I use string, it will decompose. In my next video, I will give you a closer look at the outside and share an amazing way to do permanent outdoor holiday lights that doesn't require you to get up on the ladder for hours and hours on end. So we're a little excited about this one. It should come out in the next couple of days. Just like I used my existing urns on the front porch and just added some Christmas, I do the same thing to indoor plants like the topiary in the kitchen and this one in the family room. He got holly and a magnolia branch because he got that little red spider thing too. Of course, it killed him and I had to replant, so it's looking a bit bare. It's also easy to add a holiday pick to any type of plant like a poinsettia or my kalanchoe, which will probably bloom after Valentine's Day. Sometimes I have vignettes that I really love and I'm just not ready to part with, but I do want them to reflect the Christmas season. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I like to do. My regular viewers will recognize the top of the armoire I used to store my china in the dining area. I love this little vignette on top, but obviously wanted it to be more Christmassy. So I will do a little shift in the style. Okay, here it is, stripped down and ready to insert. Now, this is the iteration of the top of the china armoire redone for Christmas, but you can see it's essentially the same thing. From a copper chafing dish to a silver chafing dish, from a blue and white plate to a spode Christmas platter, and from teacups to some silver goblets. Instead of a brass candlestick holder, I have a white one with a red candle and some green ribbon But that's essentially the very same arrangement, just dressed up for the holidays. And here are my antlers. And I like for the antlers to look like the deer just walked through the forest and got some greenery stuck on his antlers. So there he is. Another spot that I enjoy the vignette of it, and I rarely change it too much, is this little, looks like late 1800s marble top table that I kind of use as a sideboard. And I always keep this silver cake stand with the glass dome on top. And if I have something tasty, that's where it will go. But I don't have anything, so which is most of the time I just have these wicker balls, and I seasonally change what's in here. And of course, for winter, holly berries are the perfect addition. So I'm very much looking forward to a whole house tour. We will be doing a whole house tour probably towards the end of next week, and I will show you everything that I have done all at once, and there are still a few more interesting, fun things to see. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed seeing the house, give us a thumbs up. And immediately following this is my DIY, my unprofessional DIY for how I did my wreath with the foraged greenery that I found in the woods. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next time. So you can see I'm starting with that pine and just cutting individual small pieces, and I'll do that with each of them and make my bundles. I have each of my 4 types of materials trimmed off to about the right sizes, and I have pulled off any leaves to give me a little stem to work with, so it's a little bare down at the bottom, but you can see that. I'll pull off those little needles, and then I can make my bundles. Once I have everything in little piles, I've got pre-cut wire, I'll go ahead and make my bundle. I simply get a piece of each of my types of greenery that I'm using. And a piece of pre-cut wire, and I twist it around it. I'm using a 24 gauge wire, but some people like to use rubber bands or string. Whatever you have lying around, don't go out and buy something. Totally defeats the purpose here. Okay, so there is my bundle. And I just keep making bundles until I'm ready to wire it all together. I have just a willow wreath that I've been using for years, decades I should say. This might be from the late 80s, the early 90s. It's a relatively small one. You can still see there's hot glue on it from a previous project, but that won't show. Now I have also made just some plain green bundles because as I began to fiddle with it, I thought, I need more green and less of the splashy berries and so forth. So I'm going to start with my greenery and use the greenery kind of underneath it, at the base, and add the berries as I go along. I'm simply anchoring the wire here at the back so it won't come off. The anchoring is kind of important because I'm going to be tugging on this pretty hard.